matchup to watch in this one. Marcus Spears, you're first.
Yes, Bucks front seven. Listen, a lot of underknown things about these guys. I've talked about these linebackers with Levante David and Devin White, but look at Ndamukong Suh and Vita Vea and Shaq Barrett and Golston, Pierre Paul. These guys are playing lights out. They're getting after the quarterback and not having to bring pressure to get pressure on the quarterback.
I don't know, I'm going to have to follow you up with this one, Marcus, because you talked about that defense, and I grabbed Nick Foles, who's going to have to figure out how to get some points on that defense. He struggled last week when he came in as the starting quarterback. If the Bears have any chance at all to win this football game, he must not turn the football over.
I'm watching Tom Brady's ball placement. This Bears secondary makes you earn every single yard through the air. So there's going to be competitive throws. There's going to have to be competitive catches. I expect Tampa to utilize a bunch of play-action pass because Chris Godwin not playing in this football game will matter, and you can get after Chicago in the pass game with play-action. But look at these plays. These DBs are all over receivers. They're going to have to make some contested catches. Brady's going to have to be great with his ball placement.
And we've got the injuries in Tampa with the Buccaneers tonight, or Chicago as the Buccaneers play the Bears. We have Chris Godwin already been ruled out for the Buccaneers. Justin Watson's been ruled out. LaShawn McCoy's been ruled out. Leonard Fournette is listed doubtful tonight. Mike Evans will be tested pregame. They're hoping he will go, and they do think Scotty Miller will go, but it's not the regular offense for the Buccaneers tonight as they open Week 5 in Chicago against the Bears in a matchup of 3-1 teams.
Welcome to NFL Live. You just saw Adam Schefter. We'll get into those injuries more. Dan Orlovsky's here. Keyshawn Johnson is there. Marcus Spears, as always, the big swagoo ready to go. We're talking Bucks Bears. We're also going to show you why the Cowboys' defensive issues aren't just effort-based. There's some scheme problems. But
what is going on
we
here?
go with our top story. And, Shefty, I'm going to tell you what's going on here because another Tennessee Titan tested positive for COVID-19 today, bringing the total number of positive COVID cases to 23 on their team. Shefty, what is the latest with this situation in Tennessee?
Laura, the latest is that the Titans just added McCole Pruitt and a practice squad defensive back, Breon Borders, to the list. That now gives them, at this point in time, 23 positive tests since September 24th. There have been 3 players, including Corey Davis, added to the reserve COVID-19 list since yesterday in the last 24 hours. Their facility still is not open. The team is under investigation. We're waiting to see whether they can play the game against the Buffalo Bills on Sunday. You see the timeline here, the outbreak timeline in terms of what Tennessee has been dealing with in recent days. I still think the team is preparing as if there will be a game this week against the Buffalo Bills. We're waiting to see whether the game will be Sunday, whether it'll be Monday, whether it'll be Tuesday. Keep in mind the Buffalo Bills, who are scheduled to host the Titans here, play next Thursday night against the Kansas City Chiefs. And being that they play the Chiefs next Thursday, they may have to move back that game to Saturday or something like that. So there's a lot that is uncertain and fluid at this point in time.
Yeah, we'll continue to keep an eye on that with Shefty. Dan, what is your reaction to hearing everything that you've heard about what's going on with the Tennessee Titans?
Tennessee should forfeit this game. I mean, do what you have to do what you want to do. If you wanted to play in the football game, then you had to stay away from each other. What did you think? They closed down the facility just so you guys can head to an LA Fitness and work out on your own? And so if I'm a Buffalo Bills player, I want no part of this football game. I don't want you to risk me contracting the virus and then potentially ruining my season when I've done everything the right way. And then the NFL needs to step in as well because we know it takes one. It just takes one person to get it, and then it could become a spread firestorm. So Tennessee has to forfeit this football game.
Yeah, overall, the NFL doing a very strong job in keeping the cases down, but this is a case study that's different. We'll continue to monitor that story, but we've got other news to get to. And this breaking news coming our way just moments ago. In L.A., the Chargers and Anthony Lynn naming Justin Herbert the starter and saying that he has won this job. He will remain the starter over Tyrod Taylor. Just moments ago, as I mentioned, Anthony Lynn explaining all of it. Take a listen.
Go ahead and start with this statement. I want to get this out of the way because I know it's going to come up, okay? Justin Herbert, that young man, he has impressed from the very beginning, throwing him in there and the situation that I threw him in Kansas City. I mean, the ball was in the air when he found out he's going to be the starting quarterback. I just like the way he's handled that situation. and everything he's done afterwards. I think he's shown the consistency that you look for, especially in a rookie quarterback. And he made some pretty nice throws too. Now he made some hell of plays. So I think this young man is just going to continually get better. And I know we can win with him. I believe that. We haven't done it yet, but I do believe those wins are coming. I'm only saying this right now because Justin is going to start Monday night in New Orleans, and Justin's going to be our starting quarterback.
All right, so just for further context there, of course, Tyrod Taylor, the starter for the Chargers before, ended up getting punctured in his lung by the team doctor. That's why Justin Herbert was thrown into action all of a sudden, as Anthony Lynn mentioned there. Adam, take us through this move by the Chargers. What more do you know?
It's a situation where Anthony Lynn has backed Tyrod Taylor, but the more people watched Justin Herbert play, the more they were convinced they couldn't keep him on the bench anymore. He just lit it up in Tampa, played very well on the road against a tough Buccaneers defense. He did the same thing the previous 2 weeks in his previous 2 assignments. Keep in mind, as Anthony Lynn said, he found out he was making his first NFL start as they were kicking off the ball against the defending Super Bowl champs when Tyrod Taylor's lung was punctured. There's an old expression in the NFL, you can't lose a job to injury. Well, we've never heard the expression before, you can't lose a job to injury, especially when your team doctor punctured your lung. But in this particular case, Justin Herbert played so well for this team. And Tyrod Taylor, again, catches the unfortunate break of being in a spot where a team drafts a talented quarterback like it happened in Cleveland with Baker Mayfield, like it's happened now in Los Angeles with Justin Herbert. Anthony Lynn believed in Justin Herbert. I think there were players on the team, a couple of players who wanted Tyrod Taylor to continue on, and there were a group of players that believed in Justin Herbert. But the talent was inevitable, and now he will make his first Monday Night Football start against the Saints in a game against Drew Brees, who once made his first Monday Night Football start in a game against Brian Greasy, who will be in the booth calling the game between Drew Brees and Justin Herbert.
That's crazy. Hey, Shefty, quickly, I'm curious, is Tyrod Taylor healthy if he would need to play?
He is pretty healthy. Look, if he needed to be out there, he could be out there right now. But the fact is, they believe Herbert's played well enough and impressed enough to keep the starting job moving forward.
Yeah, you can't help but feel for Tyrod Taylor. Key, are you okay with Taylor losing his job because of an injury?
I'm really not, but I understand. I don't think players should lose their job due to injury, especially if you're not winning football games. Had they run off 3 in a row, not a problem. But I understand why they drafted this kid. I had the fortunate enough to watch him play at least 3 times last year, but I've seen him throughout his entire career at the University of Oregon. I watched him at Arizona State struggle. I watched him just murder USC, my school. And I also saw him at the Rose Bowl take care of business, not only running the football, but also throwing it in the air against Wisconsin. So when you look at that, Dan, I kind of saw the same things that the Chargers are seeing now. Big, strong kid, strong arm, can run a little bit, command the huddle. That's impressive. I mean, 72% of his completion percentage right now, impressive.
I applaud Anthony Lynn because I'm sure this was a very difficult decision, but you did what's right for your football team. Like, in the NFL, you earn the right to be on the field, and it's a meritocracy. I remember Tony Romo saying that about Dak Prescott when he came in and played so well. It was like, we can't take him off the field. He gives our football team life. The biggest thing for Justin Herbert right now is he's become a playmaker, and that's a big deal in the NFL at the quarterback spot right now for young players. Be a playmaker. They've pushed both Kansas City and Tampa Bay to the brink. And one of the big reasons why is because of Justin Herbert. So I'm sure this was a difficult decision, but it is the right one, and I applaud Anthony Lynn for doing so.
Marcus, you heard Shefty saying there that some players might have still wanted Tyrod Taylor to have a chance. Some players wanted Justin Herbert to continue to be the starter. What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Well, it's just difficult. I'm sure for the players that wanted Tyrod to start, they've also acknowledged that Justin Herbert played well, but it's just unfortunate for Tyrod to technically lose his starting job this way. Obviously, they drafted Justin Herbert to be the future, and Tyrod knew as well as everybody else knew that eventually the day would come. But based on what we watched the last 3 games, I'm with Key and Dan. You can't deny the film. Look, football has always been about your resume, and your resume is what you put on film. And there was no way Anthony Lynn or this Chargers coaching staff could deny the fact that the young man was playing well and playing at a high level against really good teams and going toe-to-toe. Now, unfortunately for Tyrod, he's back in another cycle that he's been in for a lot during his career, but he'll bounce back. I know him, a real good dude, strong-headed, he'll be fine.
Yeah, one of the things that was questioned in college for Justin Herbert was his aggressiveness and his confidence on the field. We've seen that come in full fold at the NFL level. So congratulations to him, no matter how it ended up happening. We're just getting started on NFL Live with Buccaneers at Bears, and it'll mark the first time between Tom Brady and Nick Foles since Super Bowl 52. It also marks the first rematch between Super Bowl starting quarterbacks where both players are on different teams. Who could have seen that coming? Brady enters tonight's game with a 5-0 record against the Bears, holds a 92 QBR when facing Chicago, his highest against any single opponent. On the other side, Nick Foles is still searching for his first win as a starting quarterback since leaving Philadelphia. He's lost 6 straight starts dating back to the 2018 playoffs. Just over 4 hours till kickoff here at the Domino's pregame headquarters. And for more on tonight's game, let's bring in Michelle Steele from Chicago. Michelle, Foles has played just one game as a starting quarterback for the Bears. Is there already pressure mounting, though, for him to perform?
Tom Brady has talked in the past about how that loss to the Philadelphia Eagles and Nick Foles a few seasons ago in the Super Bowl still stings, so he may have a little extra motivation today. But between these two quarterbacks, there's no question it's Nick Foles who's under more pressure, certainly to turn things around for this Chicago Bears offense. Now, of course, he took over as the full-time starter after Mitchell Trubisky was benched last week against the Indianapolis Colts, and things didn't go well. He only saw the end zone once. What Matt Nagy has kept on saying this week is he has to calibrate this offense to the things that Nick Foles does well. Of course, the plays that worked for Trubisky aren't necessarily the ones that will work for Foles. Foles also reminded us that, you know what, it takes time to develop these relationships with his teammates, but the Bears don't have much time. It's a short week.
Thanks, Michelle. So, Dan, one of the things that people were talking about last week is that Bucs defense, especially their secondary against the Chargers, maybe not looking up to snuff. But why shouldn't we read too much into that?
Because that's not who they are. Listen, they gave up those 2 big bombs to Justin Herbert, and first of all, they were phenomenal throws. A big ball play action that goes over the top of their heads when they don't cover it the right way, and they let maybe an unknown receiver go over the top, and then 3rd and 8 all-out pressure, a guy just gets beat to a perfect throw. But that's not who they are. Sean Murphy-Bunting and Carlton Davis and Winfield Jr., this is a top 3 or 4 secondary in the NFL, and they're going to challenge Chicago. If you looked at Chicago last week with Nick Foles, 1, to Michelle's point, they were trying to figure out who they were with Nick Foles. 2, they don't really have anybody that scares you. Outside of Allen Robinson, there's no one that you go as in a secondary we got to really pay attention to that guy. And then there was way too many. There was probably 4 times last week where guys are doing separate things on the same play. So they got to, tonight, if they have any chance in their pass game, they got to be on the same page and execute really well. But I just think this Tampa Bay secondary is way too good going against the Chicago skill players.
I think all this starts with Todd Bowles, defensive coordinator. I think when you look at what that defense is capable of doing, everywhere Todd has been as a defensive coordinator, defense has been on fire. His last 2 stops as a defensive coordinator, you talk about the Arizona Cardinals prior to the head coaching job of the New York Jets, they were 4th in defense efficiency, 5th in points per game. That's big time. Now you look at the Tampa Bay Bucks, he has them at 8th in points per game, 4th in yardage. They're giving them 23 points a game, and 6th in defensive efficiency. That's saying something. This is the type of defensive coordinator you go out and hire when you want fire defense. And that is why he's the guy on the sidelines, and you see what this defense is all about.
Yeah, Marcus, you are a big fan of this Bucs defense, too. Why? Tell us something with the tape.
Because the front 7 is riddled with playmakers. And they do a tremendous job as far as getting to the quarterback with 4. When they bring pressure, they have 2 linebackers that can absolutely flat out get it in Levante David and Devin White. And obviously we know how impressive Shaq Barrett was last year, but he's picked up where he's left off. A lot of people forgot that this guy was the sack leader in the NFL last year. When you look at this front 7 from a personnel standpoint, Levante David here making a play, Ndamukong Suh, Vita Vea, Shaq Barrett, Golston. You talk about Jason Pierre-Paul and these 2 linebackers. Dan just mentioned the secondary. When you can line up, and y'all gonna get tired of me saying this, when you can line up with 7 guys and stop the run, you are a really good defense, and that's what Tampa can do. They have penetrators in Ndamukong Suh and Golston. They have the big physical shade technique that plays over the center in Vita Vea, and they have Levante David and Devin White that can get east and west, north and south, and when they come on blitzes, they very rarely get blocked. They are built the right way. They have a championship build as a defense, especially if they continue on this path that they're on.
Yeah, Marcus, your 7 men in the box stop the run thing is a really good point, because that then leaves obviously 4 in coverage. Tampa Bay will play man or they'll play zone. And I'm telling you, they're very good in both of them. So to Todd Bowles' credit, like, that gives him the ton of flexibility to be like, you know what, we're going to bring 5 on this play. We'll bring 6 on this play. We'll only bring 4 on this play, because they can kind of dictate to an offense. And you're thinking about the Bears tonight, no Tariq Cohen. So even in their run game, that's going to hinder them a little bit. But then in the pass game, like, I would have tried to find matchups with Tariq Cohen on those linebackers that Marcus mentioned in the pass game. He's not playing tonight. And so Todd Bowles is going to go, all right, Nick Foles, I'm going to play coverage on you with our 4 guys in our secondary. You're not going to run the ball in our front 7, and we will dominate you defensively.
It feels like for the Bears, Khalil Mack has to have a huge night. He's been a little hobbled in practice, but is expected to play. Key, quickly, when you think about Nick Foles, this is not exactly what he wants to see in his second game starting for the Bears against this type of defense. What do you expect out of him tonight?
To be honest with you, I really don't expect a lot. I think they need to protect him, try to get what they can in running the football, and hope and pray that the defense can somehow negate Tom Brady, because he's missing some weapons, and kind of keep the game as close as possible and force a turnover or 2. Otherwise, they're going to get run out the building. I'm just keeping it 100.
Yep, thanks for keeping it 100. And also, we do have more updates on those Bucs injuries a little bit later on in the show with Adam Schefter right up to this game. All right, still ahead on NFL Live. Dallas's defense looking mediocre at best. They're getting criticized for their win. They've allowed 146 points, 1,722 yards, and 101 first downs. All of those marks are the most the team has allowed through 4 games in a season in franchise history. Cowboys safety Xavier Woods doesn't think it's due to a lack of effort in Dallas.
Our effort's been good. I mean, in certain plays, some guy, me included, it may be a lack, but overall the effort is there. You don't expect, we're in the NFL, you don't expect guys to full speed for 70 plays. That's not possible.
All right, Marcus Spears, you ever hear a player talk like that about effort, especially publicly?
No, you're not ever supposed to talk about it publicly. And I think I don't want to get too psychological here, but I hope Xavier Woods was speaking in the vein in which I think he was, talking about just getting tired and not being able to go as fast as you were going at the beginning of the game, but still in your mind giving maximum effort. I played on the D-line for 9 years. You don't give maximum effort, you're gonna have to move your family to a smaller crib, and your body might be broke up by the time the game over with. So, look, I'm gonna give Xavier Woods benefit of the doubt, but that doesn't mean other people should, and that doesn't mean he shouldn't be excoriated for what he said, because right now, based on what we've been watching with the Cowboys, a part of your effort is the issue as far as getting to the ball and running to the ball when plays are away from you. So I'm going to leave that to some other people on the set to talk about.
Well, I've been wrestling with this now for the last couple hours, man, because I'm like, you got to be going 100 miles an hour to even be on the team. I understand 70 plays is a lot. Maybe your body doesn't allow you to go full speed all the time. I get it. I understand that. But your mind should be telling you you've got to go 100 miles an hour every single play. Because if I'm a teammate and I'm giving max effort and I look at you and you not giving max effort, I'm going to have a problem with you. I mean, I played on a team with one of the top defenses in NFL history. And 11 hats was to the ball in Tampa Bay every single time, regardless if they was on the other side of the field or not. So I don't know. I'm like Marcus, man. I just hope that the word, he chose the wrong word. I just hope that's the case.
So we've all watched the tape, right? We've talked about it this week that there is a lack of effort on tape. And what are we trying to justify here? Like Xavier Woods' words were, certain plays, some guys, myself included, may be a lack of effort. There's a big difference between full speed and full effort. And you get what you tolerate. Dude, you got 16 shots at this. 16.
But see, you said effort, right, Dan?
He said effort.
No, I'm saying you repeated that. So now you done changed my mind again. Now you got me tripping, because if he's not giving maximum effort, and I'm watching it on tape, and I'm sitting there on all 22s, and I'm in the room with the red dot, and you're not giving maximum effort,
you can't be on the field.
I got a real problem with
and
you.
And I'm like, if I'm a leader down in Dallas, if I'm Dak Prescott, like, I do have to have a meeting, and I do have to talk about this and go, guys, this isn't acceptable. Like, we do have to play with full effort. We're 1-3. We can't, like, we're not playing well, and the players, talent-wise on defense, maybe aren't up to par. I have to be able to bank on your effort. I'm not expecting you to be perfect in your execution. I'm not expecting you to be perfect in your dominance on that play. But I have to expect for you to play as hard as you can, because I'm going to. If I'm Dak Prescott, guys, I'm going to play as hard as I can.
Maybe he was looking for the word loaf. We loaf. We get some loafs.
That's not acceptable either.
I know, but guys would loaf. You know how that goes because they're tired and stuff like that. But who's not giving effort?
You get 16 games. Man. You get 16 games.
It's interesting, guys, because they are the Dallas Cowboys, so that's a big reason why we're sitting here analyzing every single thing that comes out of everybody's mouths, and they are 1-3. Marcus, though, you don't think it's just an effort issue. What else is wrong with this Cowboys defense right now?
No, it's a new scheme with Mike Nolan, and these guys that are on this roster were brought in to play in a 4-3 scheme with Rod Marinelli and get upfield and create pressure, and now they playing a bit slow and a bit confused. It's not to make an excuse for the effort, but we can see here, this is simple motion over by the tackle. That tells every D lineman that is where the strength of the formation is. That's where the ball is coming. Cleveland has went to a 4-platform side. You got 4 defenders. Tristan Hill, he decides to go rogue and go behind this block. If you do that, make the play. We see Aaron Donald do that, but that damn show ain't Aaron Donald. Jalen Smith is a good linebacker. If you got free offensive tackles coming up on him, he is not making the play. Let's see it done right when Wink Martindale decides not to blitz. Calais Campbell, Brandon Williams, they bump to the motion. They go to the strength of the formation. Brandon Williams plays his block, stays in the B gap. Calais presses down the center because he became the shade over the center, and this is stopped for a 2-yard gain. Look, football is a simple game. You look at the center. All right, how many guys do they have over here? How many guys do they have over here? Most of the time, they running to the side of where most of the blockers are. Dallas right now is playing confused. They're playing slow, and a lot of guys are out of technique because they are not built to play this type of football right now.
Yeah, Marcus Spears. Dan Orlovsky is actually giving you a round of applause over here. Hey, new on it.
I just learned something. That's a good tape.
Dan over here, the tape king. All right, new on NFL Live from our own Ed Werder from a Cowboys source on the potential that left tackle Tyron Smith will be placed on IR with a neck injury and maybe has played his final snap of 2020. Out for the season is an option. So let me clarify here, not saying yet that he is. Smith is officially out for the season, but he has experienced a setback with his neck injury, and so that is what they are considering potentially. Dan, when this news came down just a couple minutes ago, we were kind of looking at each other. You were like, woo, man, that's a
bad.
lot. Yeah, okay, so what do you think?
That's bad news. I mean, first of all, you can look at the performance of strictly Dak Prescott when he plays with Tyron Smith and when Tyron Smith does not play. It is a huge drop-off. And now you're talking about if he goes on IR, Lyle Collins is on IR as well. So you're back-to-back, your bookend tackles on IR. You lost Travis Frederick to retirement. Looney might be hurt. So this offensive line is being decimated. And we all know this. This offense has to carry this football team. Without Tyron Smith, they cannot.
Yeah, this is a totally different situation without Smith in the lineup. When you look at the situation with the Dallas Cowboys, for the last 6 years or so, they were one of the best offensive lines in football. Now, who's going to play? What are they going to do? Your left tackle's gone, right tackle's gone. And I'm sure if I'm Dak Prescott, I'm a little worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with that being said, guys, too, like, think about the cap strain on this team now. That's where all that money was in the offensive line. Now you're playing with guys with a quarterback that's playing on a 1-year deal and trying to figure out how you can get this season turned around. Look, Tyron Smith has been injured for a while. I wouldn't be shocked if he contemplated hanging it up because he's been hurt quite a bit over the past few years. But this is just a devastating blow. Dallas cannot afford any more bad news because it is turning into one of those piece-by-piece patchwork type situations up front on their offensive line.
You feel for Dak Prescott, who is trying to make some money this year and prove his worth as well. Now his O-line is decimated by injury. Coming up on NFL Live, there's been plenty of news about the impact of COVID-19 on various organizations. But did the Steelers get the short end of the stick? Big Ben seems to think so. We're talking about that next. We'll be right back.
Early on in the season, he's got to miss back-to-back practices.
We'll keep an eye on that. Marcus, Chase Young back at practice today. How excited are you to see him back out on the field?
Great news for the Washington football team. He started off this season very strong, was showing how dominant of a force he has the potential to become. And for him, I'm sure it's exciting to get back on the field, especially with the changes that's going on in Washington. He wants to continue to prove that he's going to be a dominant rusher and a dominant defender in this league for a long time.
Big matchup in the state of Pennsylvania this weekend between the Steelers and Eagles. ESPN's Football Power Index has Pittsburgh as the heavy favorite, giving them a 68% chance to win this weekend against the Eagles. But after having their bye moved up last week because of COVID, Ben Roethlisberger has some concerns. Listen to this.
I don't think they'll consider forfeiting our game. And, of course, we got the short end of the stick.
When one team, kind of like as you mentioned with the Titans, and I'm not saying that we know all the details or whatever, but if one team's blunders, another team's just like misfortune, kind of like how Ben mentioned, like felt like we got the short end of the stick. Yeah, I feel that. I feel the same way.
Key, what do you think about the Steelers complaining here?
Well, look, first of all, it's coming from Big Ben, so I'm gonna leave it at that. And when you think about it, it's not like the Tennessee Titans decided, oh, we're gonna go out and get COVID, and now we can move our game to November 7th. I mean, stop, though. Just stop. I mean, I understand you want your bye, you want to be able to have the rest, but if you can't play 13 straight games in this league without a bye, then I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I really don't.
It was already going to be a weird year no matter what. Everyone kind of knew that going in. Let's get to the actual matchup on the field, though, against the Eagles. Marcus, does it feel like Wentz has to be perfect to get this win?
Yeah, he does, Lauren. And look, perfect in terms of him being the best player on the field. Carson Wentz is going to have to be the best football player on the field in order for this team to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And yes, he has some defensive help up front, but the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to blitz you. They are going to try to force you into turnovers. And Cam Hayward and J.J. Watt and Bud Dupree and all of those guys on that defensive front will be hunting Carson Wentz. Listen, Pittsburgh wants to do two things defensively, and I've watched them do this for years. They want to confuse and rush quarterbacks with their safeties, strong safeties, and up front they want to dominate and annihilate you in the run game. That's their MO. That's been their calling card for years. Carson Wentz has struggled, as we've seen at big times in this season. He's going to have to play his best game so far, and he's going to have to justify that $100 million guy that we all think he has the potential to be.
Yeah, the key to this football game, Marcus, to your point, is how the Eagles handle their pressure. And it's all about 28. I mean, Mike Hilton is the best blitzing nickel in football right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense is the best, the biggest, the baddest blitzing group in the NFL. And so when you're playing a team that's going to blitz you, it's really two things. Do you protect yourself or do you try to hurt them? And the Eagles, if they're going to win, you got to go try and hurt this pressure. Again, this is a group with the best nickel blitzer in football. You can't just go into it thinking, Eagles, as long as we protect ourselves, we can win. No, you better figure out when it's coming, where it's coming from, and try to gut it. That is the only chance for you to win this football game. So, Marcus, you're right. Like, it's going to have to be Carson Wentz's best game, but it also has to be Doug Peterson's. It also has to be their plan of how they're going to attack this pressure out of Pittsburgh. If they do that, and their D-line dominates, the Eagles will win this game.
Yeah, it's interesting because we did see, Dan, that Peterson and Wentz got a little bit more comfortable in their last game and felt like even taking some risks, like going for two earlier in the game. Go ahead.
Can I ask Dan, question?
What's up?
Who is going to need to be the outlet for Carson Wentz when that pressure comes? Is that Ertz? Is that one of these receivers? Who else needs to have a day?
So when Pittsburgh brings their pressure, they're kind of vulnerable to seams. You could take shots downfield or vulnerable to the seams. So it's going to be Ertz down the seams. It's going to be Greg Ward bending a little bit. Don't be surprised if Fulgham takes a bigger step forward. And Miles Sanders, the Eagles do a good job of getting their back and going vertical. You got to hurt that blitz down the seams with Ertz, Miles Sanders, and Greg Ward.
You do understand Pittsburgh going to win this game, right, Dan?
Well,
we'll see.
Probably. Hey, the jury's still out on whose question was better, mine or Marcus's, because I never asked mine. The Steelers are seeking their first 4-0 start since 1979. And in fact, each of the last two instances when the Steelers started 4-0, it was 78 and 79. They went on to win the Super Bowl those years.
Ooh, Nuggets.
Something to pay attention to. We're not done on NFL Live. As promised, we'll be revisiting tonight's matchup. Tom Brady and Mike Evans seem to have proved that practice does make perfect. Dan and Key going to show you why. That's